Greetings, beloved Princeton United Methodist Church community. It's Pastor Jenny here with another update for you. And scripture this week comes from Mark chapter 1, and it says this. And just as Jesus was coming up out of the water, he saw the heavens torn apart and the Spirit descending like a dove on him. And a voice came from heaven, "You are my Son, the beloved. With you I am well pleased." This is the word of life. Thanks be to God. This Sunday, we have something very exciting happening. We have baptisms. Four baptisms are happening this Sunday in 3 different families, and we are also receiving someone in membership who has already been baptized, but who will be reaffirming her faith and transferring her membership from another church to ours. And this is beautiful and amazing. We are also in the midst still of our God's Time to Shine Jubilee worship series, and Rebecca Anderson is going to be preaching on Sunday, and she's closing out her time with us. We knew that she'd really be here through her last year of seminary and into the summer some, and we're on our search for a new pastoral care pastor, but she'll remain with us for a little bit. But this will be her final sermon with us. So all these things together mean that we are going to be talking about one of the aspects of Jubilee, forgiveness, this week, but also next week too. And don't worry, there's lots to talk about. We could spend many weeks on forgiveness alone, but forgiveness is one of the pieces that is one of the layers of meaning and importance that baptism has. And we are baptizing little ones. We've got 2 little ones and 2 big ones, 2 adults, young adults that are coming for baptism too. And I invite you, as you worship with us on Sunday, or whenever it is you worship, I invite you to remember your baptism, to in whatever way that makes sense to you. So I was baptized as an infant. I don't actually remember my baptism. I have pictures of my baptism. I have a baptismal certificate. I even have the rose that was there on the altar that day. And so I don't actually have memories of my baptism. But we say this all the time. We say, remember your baptism and be thankful. And so we remember in many other ways, not just with our typical way of thinking about memory. We remember by participating and renewing our baptism along with other baptisms. When we are witnesses to baptism, we have the opportunity to remember that we are baptized, that we have been called beloved, God's child, God's daughter, God's son, God's beloved, that God says to us, yes, with you I am well pleased. So that's the first invitation to you, is to remember your baptism. And if you do not know when you were baptized, then I hope you'll do a little bit of investigating to find out something about your baptism. Where was it? When was it? Who did it? Who was there? What was it like for the people that were there? If you do remember physically, like with a real memory, your baptism, then take a moment and really remember that. What was it like for you? What brought you to that decision? What is it that you remember and take away from that time? How does that live in your body and in your mind and in your heart and your soul day to day? If you have not been baptized, may you imagine this as an invitation. May you hear this as an invitation to consider baptism and to reach out to me or to Pastor Skitch or Pastor Rebecca to talk about what that might mean and how we might help you get ready for that. We don't just thrust people into the water. There's preparation that comes with that. And part of that is conversation about forgiveness and what that is and what it is for us to be forgiven by God and to live baptized lives that include forgiveness of self and others as well. And so that's another way to remember our baptism is to practice forgiveness, to practice being God's beloved, to practice seeing each other as God's beloved as well. So I invite you in to this experience and to particularly look at the layer of baptism that is forgiveness. And again, I said that we were baptizing little ones, and in some ways it doesn't make a lot of sense to talk about forgiveness when you're 1 or 3 years old. But, forgiveness is big and broad, and there are specific things that we need to be forgiven for in a moment or in a relationship. But then there are also these kind of bigger, more generalized kind of things that come with being human that we're part of collective things. And in sacraments, of which baptism is one, time isn't just linear. Time is all kind of folded in upon itself. And so when we talk about forgiveness with little ones, it's not just up to this moment what it needs to be forgiven. And even with the older ones, it's not just that. It is an experience of existing, of immersing ourselves in forgiveness or being immersed in forgiveness. And not just as a succinct act, but as a way of being and a way of living and a way of understanding ourselves and offering that grace to the world. That also does not mean that we just offer forgiveness willy-nilly and at the drop of a hat. That's also not the case, but we'll talk more about that later. That's just important to name in this moment right here. So remember your baptism and come and participate online one more week, this time about with us in baptizing others. You're needed in that you are the PUMC community into which they are being baptized. And so help us with that. One more piece that I want to name for you is that starting July 4th, that's the Sunday after next, we are opening our sanctuary with a kind of a soft opening through the summer. There will be some messiness and nothing will be quite perfect and not as it will be eventually, but we are opening our sanctuary in limited numbers to come and worship in person. So there's a way for you to sign up, reserve your seats for that. My hope is that won't happen long term, that we won't have to reserve seats, but for now, that's what we're asking you to do. We'll be communicating more about those protocols and the things that you need to know to come and worship with us in person. But look for that sign up, and we look forward to being together soon and very soon. Blessings and peace to you all.